Hallo meine lieben Freunde, was geht, was geht, was muss, was guten Abend, guten Tag. Es ist dein Lieblings-YouTuber James Bray und ich reagiere heute auf How do German schools teach about World War II? This is interesting. Someone let me know what this link was about, pretty much in the Discord and stuff like that. And so, out of curiosity, we are going to go and check this out and see exactly how people handle the teaching of something as significant and impactful as an event like this. If you guys are new to the channel, willkommen. If you guys are returning viewers, willkommen zurück. We post videos every single day or jeden Tag. And all I ask is that you guys abonniert diesen Kanal und like the video. Bitte, vielen lieben Dank. Let's not waste any time. Let's see exactly what they got to say. And yeah, man. I don't know, I'm curious. I'm gonna have some questions throughout this video, so if you guys can help me out in the comments down below, that would be amazing. By the way, for all the new people that are subscribing and for all the existing people that have already subscribed, please hit that notification bell, turn on all notifications, so that way you guys get updated every time I upload something on YouTube. The notification bell system does work, but it doesn't work if you guys don't hit it, you know what I'm saying? So anyways, let's go ahead and check this out. Los geht's. Today I found out, feed your brain. Todayifoundout.com, feed your brain.
After World War II, the German state was utterly destroyed. It was split in 4 parts, and to top it all, coming face to face with the scale of the atrocities their government and armies committed through public events like the Nuremberg trials.
The Nuremberg trials. I've heard of that before, but I don't know entirely of what that consisted of. If somebody can explain that to me, if he doesn't explain it in the comments, that would be greatly appreciated.
With the process of denazification, which can be seen as a large-scale rehabilitation program, and the regaining of independence, albeit as 2 states, helped the German people in the 50s to begin looking towards the future, burying the past. It was not just a lost war, which people can accept while still feeling proud about their deeds during it, as perhaps the French used to view Napoleon's efforts, which ended in defeat, or Austria's defeats in the 7 Years' War. Rather, in this case, the sensation after the war seems to have been similar to a person regaining their senses after having committed acts of violence under the influence, akin to a crowd cheering for a football team or other such instances of mob mentality which all humans are susceptible. Naturally, given all the revelations after the war and the atrocities committed, the Germans collectively wanted nothing more than to forget and focus on new goals. First the economy, which led to the German economic miracle, and then on the foundation of the European Union, of which in the coming decades it would arguably become.
Honestly, it's crazy. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Germany's come a long way, man. Like I think that is the only country that's completely changed the narrative of I guess of like how people view that country even today. Like they were so like, I feel like Germany and everybody in it was like so like disgusted with what happened, and they were so motivated to change the narrative. Ooh, there goes my battery again. You guys know what it is, man. It ain't a video. It ain't a James Bray video if the camera don't die. So welcome to the channel. This happens a lot. Fear not, because this is normal. Anyways, yeah, they were so like disgusted with what happened in the past that, I mean, they did everything in their power to, you know, get rid of that reputation. And I feel like they effectively did so. Like they're up there, man. They're like in the top like 5 most progressive economies right now, like in the world. 2021, man. That's insane. Insane. The turnaround is absolutely amazing. And it shows that you can bounce back from literally anything, man, if you put in the effort, bro.
Leading country. But what about the history books in school? True. After all, typical after any conflict, whether a given side is the winner or the loser, the history taught in schools tends to be colored to favor one's own people.
True. I can attest to this. In America, our books are written to reflect that we are champions, we don't lose anything, and the world owes us everything because we've never lost a war. It's kind of sad, to be honest, but just being transparent with you guys.
This, however, could not happen in Germany. The reasons for this were varied, from making sure something like that couldn't happen again, and of course the scale of the atrocities on a global level and the small time gap that separates us from those events and how well documented those events are. This brings us to the broad strokes of how this particular conflict was and is taught in German schools. We should point out here that in Germany the education system is regulated not by the federal government but independently in each of the 16 states.
That is dope. Okay, that is dope, because the government, man, they don't be doing their job when it comes to like rolling out an effective education program, bro. They could give 2 F's, bro, about the people, you know, like, but when it's a privatized company, there's more of an incentive to give people a better curriculum. So I think just like as you can see here in America with the privatized prison systems and shit like that, bro, like there is like more of an effort to get people locked up and not really correcting behavior, but just keeping the prisons populated, because the prisons make money off of the people in the prisons, you know. But in schools, people could care less if the schools get filled up or not, because, like, you know what? Listen, if they don't get filled up, we just gonna shut them down. That's straight up, just like that, bro. It's like that, you know. And it's crazy, man. That I feel like there's not a whole lot of effort to put in a more intensive curriculum here. That's just my personal opinion. But if you guys have any friends that are in America that, or if you guys have been to school in America and you have seen our education system firsthand, I would love to hear your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below. Let me know.
Constitute the German Federal Republic, or BRD. So the way history is taught, although generally falling within the same lines, can vary a lot from region to region. For example, the choice of literature used in the various classes differs greatly, not only from year to year, but also from federal state to federal state. That caveat out of the way, the study of the war period and how this is viewed in German schools can be generally divided into 4 parts. The first, the Weimar Republic. The Weimar Republic, at least its beginnings, are generally viewed positively. It is seen as
at least its beginnings. What do you mean at least its begin? Wait, what? At least its beginnings? So did it eventually fall off and get like scrutinized for some weird shit? Like
first decent effort towards democratization, despite the problems that it faced in the aftermath of World War I. The various problems culminating in the economic crisis of the late 20s and the subsequent rise of the Nazi regime are dealt with in detail, emphasizing the mistakes that would lead to the fall of the democratic system.
Jeez.
One would say that the Weimar Republic, despite the brevity of its existence, is viewed with a certain nostalgic sentiment, accompanied by the looming threat of what was to come. And that is not just...
Bro, I need a new headset, G. I hope nobody saw that, man. I say that I'm literally the second biggest thing on this screen, bro. Like, oh my god.
The war, but the Nazis themselves and their ideology.
Oop.
So I have a remote job where I work from home and work only 5 hours a week. But the craziest part...
Nazi ideology and atrocities. Head-on, the students are confronted with the crushing effects of totalitarian regimes, radical ideologies, and where these can lead. In addition to photo and video documentaries, most schools organize mandatory school trips to Holocaust memorials, usually former concentration camps. This does not only apply to history class.
That's actually pretty intense, man. I mean, and I feel like that's a good thing. That is a good thing. So it can actually take you to the core of what happened and who was affected. And how history back in the day impacted everything, like literally. Like, I mean, history in general impacts everybody all the time, but at least showing people the effects of what happened firsthand might get the lesson to sink in a bit more. You know, that's very impressive, man. Like, I didn't know that it was like mandatory to do that, but that's crazy.
Students are also introduced to the works of literature tackling the issue of Nazism and ethnic hate in Europe at the time. This can include, but is not limited to, authors such as Bertolt Brecht and Thomas Mann. Additionally, Jewish voices are amplified in terms of Jewish poetry, reports from survivors, and historical documentaries focusing on the long-term consequences of hate and violence. Some of the literature choices indicate that the schools try to emphasize the aspects of humanity and also the problem of group mentality and prejudice, as seen in works such as the post-war play Andorra by Max Frisch and more recent works such as The
Mob mentality, bro. That's like one of the scariest things, like, I think that exists worldwide, bro. Like, it's scary, bro, because all it takes is like a group of angry, bitter people going through something, like, you know, similar, and they want something to blame, right? And there's normally like a ringleader that, you know, talks up, you know, and points the blame on a specific either demographic of people, a specific person, whatever have you. But then of course the public feels like, you know, they haven't really accomplished anything significant in their life, so their significance would be hyping on the bandwagon of dunking on one individual. And that shit, bro, it's so sad, bro. It's so sad.
Boy in the Striped Pajamas from 2006.
Yo, The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, I watched that when I was in 6th grade. That shit made me cry so hard, bro. Made me cry so hard. That shit was so sad, bro. So sad. If you guys haven't seen that movie, you need to watch it.
John Boyne and The Reader by Bernhard Schlink. They also look at the Diaries of Anne Frank.
The Diaries of Anne Frank. That was one of the first books I ever read that wasn't a children's book, bro.
Excerpts of pro-Nazi texts are also studied once the students are deemed mature enough to handle this. In this vein, excerpts from Mein Kampf are...
Mein Kampf. I actually haven't read that book, but I was recommended to read it, I guess. Not sure if it's a decent book. I mean, I've heard it recommended a bunch of times, like hundreds of times, so it's got to be a decent book, I guess, right?
In advanced history class, stressing the contradictions within the text, what contemporary citizens might have identified with, and the lack of morality therein. Interestingly, as if to complement Nazi ideology with a similar type of prejudice, the other major topic focused on intensely is that of slavery, racism, and segregation in America. The war itself. Remarkably, the details of the fields of war are often underplayed in German schools. A possible reason for this is that showing maps of expanding German territory during the first 2 years of the war and discussing their winning battles might cause encouragement of nationalistic pride.
Oh, that makes sense. So you're like, yeah, you know, we lost, but we were almost there. We almost had them. And then everybody's like, you know what? What if we tried again and we didn't have an almost? We actually succeeded. So I guess it is very important the way you communicate the information is definitely very crucial, because the people ingesting the information can mistake it or take it a certain way, you know, and probably carry out their own little regimes and shit like that and try to take back what could have been theirs, quote unquote, you know. Makes a lot of sense. Like I said, these are commonsensical ways to teach a very sensitive part of history that I wish America adapted to, man. Like, because I feel like sometimes, bro, like the way America be teaching significant events like slavery and the Revolutionary War, bro, like, sometimes it's just indirectly insensitive, and then it almost encourages certain people to do some wild shit, bro.
Seems counterproductive to many given the points that educators are trying to teach. Furthermore, the discussion of the details of each battle that Rommel won or lost in Africa, or the supply problems on the Eastern Front, are not vital to the analysis of the atrocities of the Nazi regime. Another more practical aspect is that already much time has been allocated to the subject of war anyway, so they cut down on the actual battles. Of course, one downside of de-emphasizing this is many German students are never really made aware of many specific military events and conquests, since most emphasis in school is put on the internal developments, theoretical or philosophical aspects, and of course on the ideology and practice of ethnic cleansing and the ruthlessness to other groups of people seen as ethnic, cultural, or political outcasts.
That makes sense. That actually makes sense, though, because I mean, what's being taught, like you said, just to paraphrase, right, is the mentality, the development of that mentality, how it impacted other people. I mean, and not so much like the strategies that were used and the tactics that were applied to battles and stuff like that, and the battles that were won within the war, right? Because I feel like that would, I guess, lead people astray entirely. Not everybody, but you know, you got some extreme people. People are are highly influential, right? So you can influence people quite easily, especially when you have somebody with all this knowledge teaching mass amounts of people events that were this, you know, detrimental to history, you know. So it's interesting, you know. It makes sense. What he's saying makes a lot of sense. Let me know in the comments down below, how are you guys taught about World War II? If you guys you know, I know a lot of my audience is from Germany, so and then for the rest of my audience that's not, that learned about this, how were you taught about World War II? What were you taught specifically? Like, what angle were you taught about the World War. Because I know that America loves to emphasize, that everything was, horrible until we got involved and we ended everything. We're like, hold up, pause, nuclear button. Okay, like it's crazy. But I know that there's more sides to that story than people would like to believe, and even in teaching, So I'm curious to see like how you guys were taught something as impactful as this. Like this is insane.
As Jews, homosexuals, communists, etc. The result is that the military developments of war are understated, as alluded to. The result is that, shockingly, many German students are actually surprised to learn things like that Germans invaded places like modern Ukraine, modern Serbia, and Greece.
I didn't even realize they invaded Serbia like that, bro. I mean, I think I remember talking to a few people about that. I almost forgot they invaded Serbia. I know like Germany was about that life with Russia, bro, and that shit was crazy. The Eastern Front, woo, sir, that shit was that was nuts. That honestly, I wish they taught us more about that in school here in America, because at least the school I went to, bro, they like love tapped on it. They're like, Eastern Front, something happened, didn't matter. America came in later and wiped out everybody, so boom. Like, I'm like, bro, like give us more details. What the heck?
In contrast to these broader war strokes, resistance against the Nazi regime within Germany is heralded as an example of heroism and bravery, one such example being the siblings Sophie and Hans Scholl, members of the resistance group the White Rose. Such examples allow German students to find figures from the wartime with whom they can identify with. On this note, not every regular German who lived in the 1930s and 40s is painted as a terrible person. After all, when dealing with such a large group, as in any populace, there are plenty of good people and a percentage of bad.
And honestly, too, something interesting that I learned about World War II was that not every Nazi was bad, if that makes sense. Meaning, like, there were people forced into doing that. There are a lot of people, most people are, I think, being forced into being a part of that. It was more of like a join or die mentality. Like, you're either with us or you can get clapped up, like, and so a lot of people were just like, just going through it. And then I think, I'm not sure where I heard this. Arnold Schwarzenegger I made a video recently detailing what happened after the World War, right? Because he was born in 1947, and he was talking about how his dad would abuse his mom and him as kids because he had something to do with the war, not in a good way, in World War II and stuff. And a lot of people, and every single person in his village was like that, bro. Like, they were just very bitter, very depressed, and they had like tons of regret for what happened, and it just took it out on the people around them, So it's crazy to see like how all of this unfolded and impacted everybody's individual lives and whatnot, because events like that, bro, are insane, and everybody automatically assumes people were proud to be a part of the regime and do things like that. There were actually quite a significant amount of people that didn't want to be involved at all, but they were pretty much forced to be a part of that. So I'm like, oh wow, I never knew that, because the way it was taught to me was everybody willingly joined, and it was like this big ass hate mob, and everybody was in on it and stuff like that. When they lost, they were sad as hell. Like, that's how I was taught, So seeing a different perspective is very interesting,
That said, given all that happened, a large emphasis is put on even most of the good people being complicit in the atrocities by looking away and not doing anything to stop it. Defeat and post-war. The major destructions in Germany and the high cost of human lives during the war is not attributed to the Allies, but rather to the Nazi regime itself, which is being viewed as the perpetrator in starting an unnecessary war in the first place. Furthermore, most of the destruction on German soil was inflicted in the last year of the war. The obstinacy of not surrendering, even as it was clear that the outcome of the war would be negative, is seen as proof of the minimal care the Nazis expressed toward their own people. The suicide...
Which is like weird, right? Because like... for the ideology of like ethnic cleansing and stuff, right? How can you ethnically cleanse anything if you don't care about your own ethnicity, dog? Like, what? There were so many flaws with that mindset. It was insane. And I'm like, there's no way they're killing their own people, bro. Nah, there's no way, G. There's no way. But then they were, and I'm like, what? what the heck, bruh? Like, this doesn't make any like, you're gonna rule the world with one person, and like everybody's pretty much wiped out except a few people, bro. Like, including your own race is like wiped out. Like, bro, it makes no sense. Like,
of members of the party, such as Himmler and Hitler himself, is seen as an act of cowardice on their part. Thus, rather unique in history, the opposing forces who were victorious are not generally seen in a negative light by those they defeated. Far from it. On that note, the occupation of the German cities by the Allied army is characterized as liberation. This is despite, of course, the fact that the Allied soldiers at the time didn't seemingly view the race to Berlin as a race to free Berlin. The choice of words, however, comes with the emphasis that by losing the war, the German people were freed from Nazism. An interesting example comes from alternative history broadcasts that contemplate a world after supposed German victory. These paint a horrific dystopia in which the Germans, as well as the occupied people, would be suppressed by a ruthless Nazi regime.
Oof.
This is an urgent message for U.S. citizens. Did you know over 12...
Nope.
The 8th of May is therefore known as the Day of Liberation. Making parallels to the way the European Renaissance supposedly liberated the medieval people, the liberation as well as the denazification process led to an internal catharsis among Germans concerning Nazism. Reflecting all of this in popular German cinema, German war films, especially in the last few decades, tend to deal with the subject with honesty, showing the gradual shift to madness caused by hollow mass delusions, often in a tone more fatalistic than heroic. Therefore, they can be much deeper than a typical war movie, and if you're up for that, you might enjoy work such as the Generation War miniseries.
Generation War miniseries. I guess we'll check that out. Because, I mean, I need something new to watch, so that'll be interesting. I might need to make a review on that, guys.
There's also the movie The Fall, perhaps mostly known thanks to the most meme-ified Hitler scene.
Oh my god. 99999. Yo, I was wondering where that came from, bro. That makes a lot of sense. That's crazy.
Of course, one major issue of all this in the way it's taught in schools and extreme emphasis placed on this period of history is the subject of imposed collective responsibility on modern Germans, even if just implied or felt rather than ever explicitly stated.
Yeah, yo, that's crazy. You know, it's crazy. A lot of people still think that Germans are, like, ignorant people think that Germans are, Nazis and stuff like that automatically because of what happened in World War II, right? There are still people that think like that. Not a lot of people, but there still are people that definitely think like that. And I'm like, bro, how did... Really? Like, it's just like, I don't know, man. I couldn't believe it until I saw it for myself. And I'm like, wow. So, I mean, I could understand why Germany would be like, they would want to be as far removed from those events as possible. Obviously, they want to educate people on what happened and how to never get involved in some stuff like that again. But they also don't want to be associated with being affiliated with that now, you know? Like, that's crazy.
At first glance, it is good to study these events in great detail to make sure they don't happen again.
Exactly.
However, an issue for Germans, of course, is the sense of collective responsibility, despite no student today, or their parents, or even potentially their grandparents, having anything to do with any of that.
Exactly.
How much weight does the idea of original sin have? How is a person born in the 2000s responsible for the Nazi atrocities?
Exactamundo. But that also kind of parallels to what's going on in America with the slavery thing, like, you know, the slaves and slave masters and stuff like that. There's been like this huge clash between black and white people and stuff like that, because a lot of black people feel like there should be reparations against, white people and stuff like that, because, white people have been dominating over black people for a long time. But then the people who are born like within the last like 75, well, at least I'd say the last 50 years, bro, I would say had nothing to really do with the whole slavery thing and whatnot, like, at least for sure people born in 2000s, bro, they had nothing to do with any of that. They were just like, bro, like, we're here, like, we didn't even ask to be born, bro, like, we're just chilling, like, what the heck. So it's just like, how can you be responsible for something that happened like before you were even born? It doesn't make any sense. I wish that we could all just move forward, and obviously learn about these events and then progress forward and quit holding people accountable for actions they directly did not commit. It's insane.
It is still heavily frowned upon to display the modern-day German flag, despite officially and explicitly not being a Nazi symbol. On a similar note, a nationalistic display such as pledging allegiance to the flag during class every morning would have the worst possible connotations in Germany.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, look at the kids, dog. Like, that doesn't... Bro...
might be in common in places like the United States. Furthermore, there is a high percentage of population with immigrant heritage. Just look at the German national football team. As you might expect from all of this, there is some concern that the German school systems may go too far with the seeming obsession with the Nazis and all the mistakes that they were making, instead of spending more time on broader history, as is more typical in other nations. Whatever one's opinion on that, as an interesting little side note, the German denazification process was considered such a success that decades later, Americans sought to apply the same methodology after occupying Iraq. Unsurprisingly, that was not exactly successful.
They should apply it on the mentality of, bro, like, America just needs to reform their education system. That's been something that has been talked about forever. But anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for watching this and sending me this link to react to and stuff like that. Go ahead and check out the original channel today. I found out very, very, very informative stuff, and I learned quite a bit in this as well. I had a lot of questions. Hopefully you guys can answer those in the comments down below. But that was pretty much it. Love you guys, and I will see you guys very soon. Take care. Bis später, Leute. Ciao.
Well, what a pleasure it is to see all of your beautiful faces at the end of this lovely video. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'm sure you know, as I've mentioned in the past, we do have a Discord that's linked in the description down below, and we would love to have you a part of the world's greatest community ever, Bray Gang. Yes, if you've made it to this point in the video, you're officially a part of the community. So go ahead, join the Discord server. Link is in the description down below. And we also have other social media as well, like Instagram, Twitter. We're live. We go live on Twitch quite often as well. So it would behoove you to, go ahead and subscribe to the Twitch channel at twitch.tv/JamesBrayGang. Join the cause and be a part of the greatest, literally the greatest community ever. Okay, it's simple. Just go ahead and do those little things. We're trying to grow on all these little platforms and everything, and it really means a lot. Now, I know you guys stumbled up across the channel and you're like, what does this guy post? Like, what kind of content does he post? Reactions, vlogs, pretty much whatever comes to my mind. All right, it's random content. I don't know what I'm gonna be posting 10 years from now, but I do know that you can stick along for the journey, and it really means a lot. Now, for every single person that subscribes and follows all of the accounts that I have made, and all the links will be in the description down below, that's an automatic entry for any future giveaways I decide to have. I'll remind you when the giveaways take place, but you'll be surprised what I will be giving away because you guys have supported me so much up to this point, and it's only right that I do the same thing back. Thank you guys so much for being amazing, and I will see you in the next video. Take care. Peace.